piece of which could be a positive revenue generator. If in a world where we zoom forward 5-10 years or so, what are the big like line items that you're bullish on that aren't here yet that you are hoping here? Like in a world where everything is maximally successful, what's left to add to the big ones?
Yeah. Well, trading fees are going to be big for a long, long time, I think, but the problem is that they're more volatile, right? So what we've been doing over the last 5 years or so is helping to try to shift more of our revenue to what we call subscription and services, which is a little more predictable, right? So that's things today, it's like USD coin and custody fees and staking and even things like Coinbase card. So what's really cool is actually in our last earnings that we shared about Q4, we shared that 47% of our revenue is now from subscription and services, almost half. And that's allowing us to build a more predictable business. I think that, these crypto cycles are quite challenging to manage through, and it's the high highs and the low lows. And so having more predictable revenue is actually going to help us a lot as a company, as operators, but also as a public company. One of the areas on the horizon that I am excited about, which was sort of to your question, is around Coinbase Cloud. And so what we're doing is we're trying to take a lot of these internal services we've had to build for our own products, and we have shared services that multiple of our products use, like about how to connect into the blockchains and how to store crypto securely and how to trade it and how to send it. And we're making those APIs available to external customers through Coinbase Cloud. There's a product that we have coming up, and I think it'll be public by the time this comes out, but it'll be called Wallet as a Service, Coinbase Wallet as a Service. So many more companies out there, from Reddit to banks to Starbucks or whoever, eventually are going to want to have ways for people to store crypto, and we want to make it easy for them to sort of white label or utilize these APIs, so they don't have to figure out how to connect to dozens of blockchains with all these tokens and forks and airdrops and sort of security upgrades. And so just having good wallet infrastructure, I think, and by the way, you could build a self-custodial wallet off of this. You could build a custodial wallet off of it, where Coinbase is storing it. It's useful across a wide variety of applications. And I think that's a nice foundational piece of Coinbase Cloud we'll be putting out soon.
And we haven't seen any technology like this. Like wallet as a service, that sounds like the ability to scale out access to wallets as far as the internet goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm hoping we see it show up in a variety of applications. So you might, in the metaverse or in Shopify or whatever, you might just see, okay, like I've got a stored balance of crypto now, and or maybe it's an NFT or something like in Reddit that you're earning. People may want to connect their own wallet, a third-party wallet, but if it's sometimes easier to onboard, a billion people, if it's like, well, you don't have to have a crypto wallet. Maybe it's just the thing shows up in that app.
The way I'm thinking about it high level is wallet as a service, and I think this will be out by the time the podcast is released. Brian, is it's kind of like Stripe in that it's an API, and yet it's a self-contained wallet. It's like Stripe, only it's a crypto wallet. And you said there's a non-custodial version of this, which uses some like MPC technology to be, non-custodial. Is that a way to think about it? Like Stripe, but for crypto wallets?
Yeah, well, Stripe is an amazing developer tool company, and this is exactly right. These are developer tools. Coinbase Cloud is all developer tools, kind of like AWS or Stripe or something like that. And that's right. It is using MPC, multi-party computation technology underneath, which, by the way, I think that's kind of an underappreciated leap forward. Again, this is one of these things that's been getting built that it doesn't get any headlines, but it's actually really powerful because this whole world that we're living in, where we have a 12-word phrase, and if you somehow lose that or you type it in the wrong piece of malware or whatever, all the money's gone. That's really uncomfortable, and it's hard to imagine that getting to 1 billion people. Or I don't think most people would feel comfortable storing like a huge percentage of their net worth in something like that, where like one slip up and it could be gone, right? So multi-party computation lets you split up the keys. You can do 2 of 3, 3 of 5 different configurations to construct these wallets in our wallet as a service product. And by the way, there's a lot of really cool cryptography behind that. We had to build out a pretty specialized team of people and write some new crypto libraries. Just as a general rule, you never want to write new crypto libraries if you can avoid it, because you want the thing that's battle tested and it's been around and around. But in this case, nothing existed that was out there. And so we had to write it. And then we did battle test it. We got it audited by all these different firms, like multiple firms who tried to break into it. And so it's pretty battle tested at this point. And I think that's something that really powerful that we invested in.
So Wall Street not understanding crypto fully yet. They do see the here and now. You guys recently acquired One River Digital. And Eric Peters, the CIO of One River, was just on the podcast actually the week before that this is released, and we
unplanned.
Yeah, that was a coincidence. Well, it was a coincidence. We had no idea, but it's interesting because he has served sort of as a bridge to large institutional money, I think. And I'm curious that perspective, because I know Coinbase custody services like 25%. I just read this press release, so this is why I know this. 25% of the largest hedge funds in the world, the top 100 or something like this. At least those that are involved in crypto. So what is kind of the institutional play with One River Digital, and then in general, what's kind of the institutional appetite now for crypto?
Yeah, so kind of like what I was saying earlier. By the way, Eric is great. We've been super impressed with the whole One River team, and as we started to think about this subscription and services revenue, like more predictable revenue streams. And we have a couple of different product groups now. We have our consumer group, we have our institutional group, and we have this developer product with Coinbase Cloud and others that I mentioned. So on the institutional product, we started to think about, okay, how do we generate more subscription services revenue? And one thing we looked at was this idea of asset management. And so actually in a lot of the big banks, Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan, they do generate a pretty substantial amount of revenue from asset management, and it tends to be more predictable than trading fees and things like that. And we got excited, in particular when we met One River, just on the quality of the team and some of the clients that they had onboarded and things like that. And so we felt like this would be a really great matchup if we can pair their asset management business with our institutional customer base in Coinbase Prime, and felt like this could be a pretty cool thing to build out for the ecosystem over time. So yeah, I mean, just I guess to answer the rest of your question, we are still seeing a lot of institutional clients sign up, and they're not necessarily deploying a lot of capital in this environment, but they are onboarding to Coinbase Prime. In fact, in Q4, we saw an increase in the number of institutions onboarding into the space. And so the way I sort of took that was to say, this is kind of like a coiled spring of potential where they're sort of saying, okay, we still believe something's going to happen in this space. Let's onboard to make sure we're ready when we're ready to invest. We're not necessarily deploying a ton of capital right now, but the potential is there for this next period when the tide turns.
So we've covered so much already in this conversation, and including kind of the regulatory and 2022. And also, Base, which is so exciting, institutions in crypto. I want to jump back to something you said close to the beginning of this conversation, though, Brian, that really piqued my ears here. Is you talked about this idea of decentralizing Coinbase over time. So decentralizing Coinbase over time. What does that mean to you?
Good question. I mean, so Coinbase has always kind of been of two minds, because the mission of the company is to increase economic freedom in the world. My belief is to do that, we really need to get a crypto economy that's global and it is decentralized. That's how we're going to get the real innovation potential of it. But in the early days of Coinbase, we realized, okay, well, the first step is we just need to get a bunch of the fiat money of the world into the crypto economy. How do we make a bridge to that? And that turned out to be a pretty centralized business, our exchange, our custodian, et cetera. That's still, by the way, our largest revenue stream. And so, although we're diversifying it with subscription services revenue, as I mentioned. So we really have different product groups now at Coinbase, and they're able to tackle different stages of this evolution. So, we're able to get people's money into the crypto economy with our exchanges and our custodian, et cetera. But we're also starting to build the crypto to crypto, the more decentralized pieces of the economy with self-custodial wallet, like Coinbase Wallet, things like Base, right? Even building things which are, Web 2.5, if not closer to Web 3, like Coinbase NFT. We'll probably build more of our own dApps over time. We want to make sure we're contributing to the open protocols, and helping them evolve as well. We've done some work there with the developers in the community. So yeah, I think it's easy to look at Coinbase at a cursory level and say, oh, it's just a centralized crypto company. And that's true of our early products, but it's actually more nuanced than that. And my hope is we can become more and more decentralized over time.
So getting into some closing questions here, I'm wondering if you could kind of look long term. I think you've been looking at Coinbase and crypto long term since you entered the space. Let's fast forward to the end of this decade, so 2030. What does crypto look like to you?
2030. I mean, I think we'll have made substantial progress by then in a number of dimensions. So I think blockchains will be more scalable. I think a lot of the usability will be there in terms of, every time you just send it to someone's ENS name or whatever standard takes off, like, payments will arrive instantly for less than a penny anywhere in the world, kind of those sort of just basic things. I think we'll see more central bank digital currencies. I hope that the US essentially grandfathers in these, stable coins that have followed the rules and just are backed with the dollar in the US, and they sort of become the de facto CDBC of the US. I think we'll see more countries around the world adopt crypto. So kind of like what we did with El Salvador. And I think we'll see actually probably by 2030, I don't know what my prediction is, at least a handful of other ones, if not maybe some even medium-sized ones may even start to adopt crypto as a legal form of tender. I think more and more startups will actually sort of like we used to call them .com startups, and oh, you're using the internet .com, but now you just call it a startup. Every startup uses the internet. I think by 2030, there's not going to be a crypto startup. It's just every startup will use crypto in some way, shape, or form, whether it's to raise money or collect payments from their customers or build their community or whatever. And I hope by 2030 we have 1 billion people in the world accessing an open financial system every day through products like Coinbase and others around the world. And basically, it's just that economic freedom has all these positive downstream effects in society, with people having stable currency and the ability to earn a living and to get a loan when they need it, and just having access to good financial infrastructure. It can help uplift, 1 billion or more people out of poverty and give them more opportunity in life. And we'll probably see a whole nother category of applications that get built that are sort of in this new decentralized way on Web3. So that's I hope that'd be a lot to get done by 2030, but I think it's definitely possible.
Brian, it's been 11 or 12 years, something like this, since you entered and started Coinbase?
10 and a half, almost 11 maybe.
10 and a half. Okay. So you're on your second decade here.
Yeah.
Is this where you thought you'd be? Are you kind of surprised at that Coinbase is as large as it is, that crypto is over $1 trillion asset class? Or is this like for you right on schedule?
Well, I always hoped that something like this would happen. I mean, I didn't know. I knew for sure that there was a lot of ways that it could not happen, but I thought it was at least possible. Before Coinbase, I was working at Airbnb. I was like a early employee there, and I'd seen Airbnb had gotten quite big, quite fast, and I was like, okay, this is at least possible. It's in my realm of possibility. One thing that I underestimated was that I thought crypto payments, like commerce, things like that happening with crypto would have moved a lot faster. I remember in like 2014 and things like that, we were running around signing up all these merchants online. And I was like, I don't know, within 5 years, probably 5-10% of e-commerce will be happening in crypto or something like pretty big. It turned out I was way too optimistic on that, but a bunch of other things happened that I totally didn't predict and took off way faster. Things like DeFi and NFTs and, even just like the trading use cases, and I didn't predict a lot of it. So I was excited about the space, and I'm glad that we just started to build things as best we could. But you try a lot of things, some of them work, a lot of them don't, and that's just the nature of innovation in entrepreneurship.
Brian, since you've seen almost everything that there is to see firsthand in this industry, and we are entering, more in the middle of a bear market, and Bankless got built in a bear market. DeFi got built in a bear market. Coinbase got built before I think there really even was a meaningful market at all. What advice do you have for the people that are putting on a builder's hat in 2023? You started as a builder. I think you still consider yourself a builder, even though you've elevated yourself beyond being an engineer. For the people who are just now starting their first companies or first projects or engaging in any sort of builder capacity, what advice do you have for them in the world of crypto nowadays?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. I mean, a lot of days and years actually went by where we were just kind of showing up to work every day, hanging out with our friends, writing some code, talking to some customers. And there was periods where people felt really down, in the company and crypto in general. I remember people would come up to me and say, like, what are you going to do now that Bitcoin has failed? And I was like, I don't think it has failed. What do you mean? And they're like, oh, he doesn't realize it. Okay, I just like move on. Yeah, and you just don't be in it for the glamour. Like, just build something if you like building stuff in this industry. And that's what I tried to do, is just like tune out the noise. And frankly, like if all we were going to do is show up every day and like hang out with our friends and write some cool code, and maybe some people would use it on the internet, I thought that was fun. I always hoped it would grow and become much more mainstream. But, if I stopped getting invited to fancy conferences, or, the New York Times wrote something, mean about me or whatever, I tried not to let it bother me, because that's not really the reason I got into it. I don't really care what other people think. I just want to work on stuff that I think matters and helps the world. And I know not everyone's going to like that. Basically, anytime you're doing something that is innovative, you have to be willing to be ridiculed for it a little. Because if it was a obviously good idea that everybody liked, someone would already be doing it. So that's kind of the nature of disruptive innovation. Is it has to? It's like Peter Thiel thing. It's like it has to be a good idea that sounds like a bad idea. It's like most people have to think it's a bad idea, but it's actually a good idea. It's contrarian. So if you're working on something that everyone thinks is a good idea, that's actually probably a bad sign. It means you're about to have a correction back.
Well, Brian, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks again for coming on and sharing with you. Certainly it's a different world than it was in 2021, but I just want to say on behalf of Bankless and crypto natives and people who really care about this community and this industry, thanks for not effing it up.
Yeah.
Like sincerely, very glad that Coinbase, when there was in the midst of uncertainty and all sorts of platforms were failing and collapsing, Coinbase didn't. And appreciate you playing the long game and getting us through and continuing to build with us into the 2020s and into this decade.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. We're doing our best, and I have a feeling we're going to be sitting here in a year or two, and things are going to be looking a lot different. So let's keep moving forward.
To it.
Yeah, let's do it. Action items for you, Bankless Nation. Want to leave something in the show notes. You got to get involved in Crypto 435. That is the advocacy that we were talking about earlier in this episode. So if you're in the US and you want to make your voice heard, sign up for that. Of course, got to end like this. None of this has been financial advice. How dare you think it is?
Crypto is risky. You could lose what you put in. We're headed west. This is the frontier. It's not for everyone, but we're glad you're with us on the Bankless journey. Thanks a lot.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, head over to Bankless HQ right now to develop your crypto investing skills and learn how to free yourself from banks and gain your financial independence. We recommend joining our daily newsletter, podcast, and community as a Bankless Premium subscriber to get the most out of your Bankless experience. You'll get access to our market analysis, our alpha leaks, and exclusive content, and even the Bankless token for airdrops, raffles, and unlocks. If you're interested in crypto, the Bankless community is where you want to be. Click the link in the description to become a Bankless Premium subscriber today. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for in-depth interviews with industry leaders, Ask Me Anythings, and weekly roll-ups where we summarize the week in crypto and other fantastic content. Thanks everyone for watching and being on the journey as we build out the Bankless Nation.
Crypto is going to outlast any administration, any official who has the wrong idea or whatever. And so we can go through good periods and bad periods as long as we keep building. And then the people who are engaged enough on the civic side who want to do it, that's great. The people who just want to build, that's also great. We need both. I think we'll get there eventually.
Welcome to Bankless, where we explore the frontier of internet money and internet finance. This is how to get started, how to get better, how to front run the opportunity. This is Ryan Sean Adams. I'm here with David Hoffman, and we're here to help you become more bankless. Everything you wanted to know from the Coinbase co-founder and CEO, Brian Armstrong, including his reflections on 2022 and his outlook on crypto moving forward, that is contained in the conversation that you're about to hear. A few benefits, some takeaways for you, an index of things we talk about. Number one, Brian's reflections on 2022. How bad of a year was it? What was learned? Number two, the regulatory situation that faces America right now in crypto. How did SBF infiltrate our halls of power? We ask him that question. And how do we undo the damage and win over our legislators? Number three, we talk about Base Chain. This is the new layer 2 chain that Coinbase just launched in the absolute worst regulatory environment we've ever seen. Why did they do this? Number 4, does Wall Street even understand crypto? Do they understand Coinbase? We talk about the fundamentals. And finally, number 5, we get to one of my favorite parts in this whole conversation towards the end, which is Brian's best advice for the settlers and the builders who are sticking around during this crypto winter. David, this was an exceptional episode. What should listeners pay attention to?
For me, I think the thing to pay attention to is to try and listen to this episode viewing the forest for the trees as it relates to Brian. Brian arrived on the scene in crypto 2011 and started making Coinbase in 2012. And ever since then, he's been fully committed to like building out Coinbase, laser focused as the high highs of crypto came and then the low lows of crypto came. And then that cycle repeated like 3 or 4 more times until where we are today. Brian has been with his builder's hat on, focusing on making the best product possible at Coinbase. And so just zooming out and viewing Brian as a builder who is able to make it through the waves of the market cycles and make it through the scams of Mt. Gox to FTX, and yet be unfazed and just put on the hat of responsibility for stewarding this industry into where it needs to be into the long term. I think if you can probably listen to every single sub part of this episode and still see that there are certain qualities that people have that make them just really able to survive in crypto. And I think we're just really fortunate as an industry that we got Brian in the industry in 2012 so early, and to be an exemplar of these characteristics, to be a really good crypto person and a really good crypto builder. I just have a ton of thanks for Brian and everything that he's done. And so I think you'll also be listening to that in this episode.
Yeah, and also in the debrief, because David, one of the things I want to discuss with you during the debrief is how not a diva Brian Armstrong actually is, which is actually pretty satisfying coming out of all of the like egomaniac, maniacal founders and scam artists of 2022. So reminder for Bankless citizens, you have access to the debrief, which is our episode after the episode that David and I record with our thoughts on what we just heard and the conversation we just had. If you would like to upgrade to become a citizen of the Bankless Nation, there's a link in the show notes where you could do this. Also, David, we joked during the episode that, hey, we should turn this episode into an NFT. Fun fact, that's actually happening.
Yeah, he didn't catch on that joke.
No. So we turn our Monday podcast into NFTs. We will be releasing this as an NFT. There's usually a launch at 3 p.m. on every Monday. So this will become an NFT and release this for the Bankless Nation.
I'm actually really looking forward to emailing Brian and say, hey, Brian, remember that part about us turning this podcast into an NFT? Well, we would like to airdrop you one of the 100 NFTs that we're about to make. By the way, that wasn't a joke.
That happens. I don't know if it's legal will allow that, but we'll try anyway. Guys, we're going to get right to the conversation with Brian Armstrong. But before we do, we want to thank the sponsors who made this episode possible, including Kraken, which is our 2023 recommended crypto exchange. Go sign up, start an account now.
Kraken has been a leader in the crypto industry for the last 12 years. Dedicated to accelerating the global adoption of crypto, Kraken puts an emphasis on security, transparency, and client support, which is why over 9 million clients have come to love Kraken's products. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, the Kraken UX is simple, intuitive, and frictionless, making the Kraken app a great place for all to get involved and learn about crypto. For those with experience, the redesigned Kraken Pro app and web experience is completely customizable to your trading needs, integrating key trading features into one seamless interface. Kraken has a 24/7, 365 client support team that is globally recognized. Kraken support is available wherever, whenever you need them, by phone, chat, or email. And for all of you NFTers out there, the brand new Kraken NFT beta platform gives you the best NFT trading experience possible. Rarity rankings, no gas fees, and the ability to buy an NFT straight with cash. Does your crypto exchange prioritize its customers the way that Kraken does? And if not, sign up with Kraken at kraken.com/bankless. Learning about crypto is hard. Until now. Introducing MetaMask Learn, an open educational platform about crypto, Web3, self-custody, wallet management, and all the other topics needed to onboard people into this crazy world of crypto. MetaMask Learn is an interactive platform with each lesson offering a simulation for the task at hand, giving you actual practical experience for navigating Web3. The purpose of MetaMask Learn is to teach people the basics of self-custody and wallet security in a safe environment. And while MetaMask Learn always takes the time to define Web3 specific vocabulary,
vocabulary, it is still a jargon-free experience for the crypto-curious user. Friendly, not scary. MetaMask Learn is available in 10 languages with more to be added soon, and it's meant to cater to a global Web3 audience. So, are you tired of having to explain crypto concepts to your friends? Go to learn.metamask.io and add MetaMask Learn to your guides to get onboarded into the world of Web3. Arbitrum One is pioneering the world of secure Ethereum scalability and is continuing to accelerate the Web3 landscape. Hundreds of projects have already deployed on Arbitrum One, producing flourishing DeFi and NFT ecosystems. With the recent addition of Arbitrum Nova, gaming and social dApps like Reddit are also now calling Arbitrum home. Both Arbitrum One and Nova leverage the security and decentralization of Ethereum and provide a builder experience that's intuitive, familiar, and fully EVM compatible. On Arbitrum, both builders and users will experience faster transaction speeds with significantly lower gas fees. With Arbitrum's recent migration to Arbitrum Nitro, it's also now 10 times faster than before. Visit arbitrum.io, where you can join the community, dive into the developer docs, bridge your assets, and start building your first dApp. With Arbitrum, experience Web3 development the way it was meant to be: secure, fast, cheap, and friction-free.
Bankless Nation, we have Brian Armstrong on the podcast again. He is the CEO and founder of Coinbase. Of course, Coinbase started in 2012 as just a custodial Bitcoin wallet back then. Oh my, how far we've come. It's grown into a massively successful publicly traded company that we know today, serving a lot of crypto listeners worldwide. The last time we had Brian on the podcast actually was an interesting time. It was November of 2021. What a different world it was back then versus just over a year later, the beginning of 2023. We've got a lot to talk about, including FTX, including catching up with Coinbase products, including 2023. Brian, it's great to have you back on Bankless. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, guys.
All right, let's pick up where we left off last time. All right, it was a different world back then. 2022 was in some ways what we feel like is crypto's worst years. I don't know if you share that, because I know you've been in some pretty bad years even before we got into the space, and you've seen a thing or two. But what did you learn in 2022, and what are kind of your reflections? Do you agree that it was one of our worst years? Is there ever any silver lining there, and what did you learn?
Yeah, I'd say 2022 is definitely a pretty bad one. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the Mt. Gox era, where similarly the market came down, a bunch of people lost some money. The only thing it seemed like people were asking me about or talking about for 6 months or 12 months was Mt. Gox, Mt. Gox, Mt. Gox. And we had to kind of go, the industry was so tiny back then, but same thing. We had to go out there and educate the world and let people know that it's not all bad actors. There's a lot of good people trying to build in this space, even if the headlines are disproportionately about the bad actors. And then, funny thing happened. I think like about 12 months went by, and then people sort of moved on and they stopped asking me about it as much. I don't know. It took maybe 12, 18 months, something like that. And it was just kind of gone from people's memories. So I'm hoping something similar happens here. We've got a little ways now before we get to that 12, 18 month mark. But that's what a lot of my time has been focused on, is getting out there and trying to educate the world, remind people that this industry has a lot of great companies and people in it. And we're not going to let the actions of any one bad actor call the entire industry into question.
What were some of the learnings from 2022 in your mind? Every year presents a new set of learnings. What were some of the lessons you took coming out of that year?
Yeah, well, I mean, so one was that I think we grew too quickly at Coinbase. In the up markets, I always try to remember that it's never as good as it seems, right? And then in the down markets, you have to remember it's never as bad as it seems. So I think I probably got a little too caught up in the moment, just like everybody. And it felt like we had a line of customers out the door. Our biggest challenge was really just how do we even onboard all of the people trying to use our products? And so it was easy to just keep adding more and more headcount. And I think the culture of a company is really strained if you sort of more than double headcount in a year. It's got too many new people who are training the new people who just joined, and the culture gets kind of diffused. Decision making is unclear. Who's in charge of what? Communication breaks down. Too much game of telephone. And so we definitely exceeded that a bit in that time frame around 2021, 2022, early 2022. I think we hit almost 3x or something like that over a 12-month period. So that was probably too much. I would have changed that in hindsight. But I think the big things we got right, which was we always were a company founded that focused on compliance and trust and security. And we invested a lot in doing those things the right way. And that's not always the fastest way. And I have to say, it was definitely very difficult in those moments where we saw companies like FTX come on the scenes and just rock it up. And, he was kind of speed running the the elite conferences of society and all the introductions and everything. And part of me was thinking, man, I've been working on this for 10 years. This guy just kind of is moving so fast after 2 or 3 years. Like, how is he doing it? Maybe I'm the one who's got it wrong. Well, it turned out he was kind of, doping, I guess, if you want to make that analogy, and, using customer money in an unethical way. So that wasn't great. I guess the major lesson I learned from that is, it's never as good as it seems. Like, if it seems too good to be true, maybe there is something that probably is. And keep focusing on what we know best. I mean, of course, we want to move fast, we want to execute, but we're not trying to get rich quick or cut any corners. We're trying to make sure this company is around for generations to come, and we can serve as this really important, foundation to help people get fiat into crypto, but then also to use crypto in all these different ways. And we can talk about how we're decentralizing more of Coinbase over time. Some people have sort of incorrectly felt like, oh, Coinbase is like just now pivoting to compliance. Like, no, even 10 years ago when I founded the company, I realized, okay, we're gonna have to go get money transmission licenses and, have compliance teams. And, the centralized actors of crypto are gonna be regulated. They should be regulated, like exchanges, custodians and stuff. And so that's how we're gonna build trust in this industry and make sure it stands the test of time.
I, like the rest of the industry, definitely want to move on from Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, but I just got to ask a couple more questions on this front. As FTX was peaking and everyone was just like loving the product, and Sam Bankman-Fried was a hero among many different camps outside of crypto, did it like make you like question yourself? It's like, wow, FTX arose so fast. What were you thinking about, like Sam Bankman-Fried? Was he like this insane operator, or did you start to get like your hair stand up on end because something like felt wrong? What was your intuition as this man seemed to be invincible?
Yeah, well, all of us are driven by ego to some degree, and I'm no exception to that, right? And